find out. Dr. Rachel Francis from the Marion Animal Hospital. And thank
Which camera? There's like 3 cameras this morning.
this one.
Oh, okay.
The one that's lit.
Okay.
Okay. So the thing is that it's really nice of you to come in.
Yeah,
because
it's my pleasure.
You come in here and you give us all these little tidbits of what to do with animals and what's on the pike for the animals right now.
Mhm.
And how's that, first thing I want to ask you is how's that little, not a pug, it's a
Chihuahua.
the Chihuahua.
Yeah, she's good.
Is she good?
Yeah, she's good. She's walking.
And
We have not figured out the prosthetic.
yeah.
She doesn't like anything attached to it. It's like
Yeah.
really itchy because it's still healing.
Yeah.
But she's been adopted by Beth.
Ah. So, but is she still at your place?
No, she goes home with Beth.
Ah.
Yeah, but then she comes for her bandage changes still. So she's doing great. She still has to get spayed.
That's one of your
Yeah, but Brody got
technicians, right?
Yeah,
Beth?
But Brody
Yeah.
got adopted to a family, a retired couple. I believe I'm gonna say Fairhaven.
Who?
Brody was the other dog that we had, who was 9. It was
Ah.
great. It was
I
the
di-
perfect 10 dog.
I didn't. I don't think I knew anything.
He didn't have any
about-
problems. He was just surrendered for people who couldn't care for him anymore.
Oh.
So
Well, that's really good.
yeah,
So
this
you're
time of
doing
year,
good
all the
things up there.
shelters are full. All
Yeah.
are full. So, like at the end of the summer, the shelters in Massachusetts are just full to the brim. So people call around to try to surrender an animal, and they just can't unless they go to a kill shelter, like the MSPCA or something. And then you're not sure. Like they do things on volume and.
Yeah, there was a story on the news, and I don't know where this happened because I'm going by my memory, which is I forget towns and whatever. But there was a story on the news where there was a German Shepherd tied to a bench,
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends on the time
and
of year.
it was in labor,
Oh my God, poor thing.
and had already given birth to one puppy, and she was trying to bury it because it was dead. It was born dead.
Oh my God.
And they found,
This is a terrible story.
yeah, but it gets better because they wound up calling an animal hospital, and the dog went there and they helped the dog. The dog wound up having 9 puppies
Oh.
that had about 6 of them, and then they knew from an X-ray, I guess they took, that there was still more
some
puppies in there.
Yeah, and they had to go get them.
Yeah, and
She was
they-
probably tired and
yeah,
malnourished and- yeah.
but
9 puppies.
they're all doing fine,
Oh, good.
and she's doing fine too. But
That's
they'd love
excellent.
to know who tied her to a bench. You know, sad. But anyway, that was on the news last night.
My
But
goodness.
what I'd like to ask you this morning is about, you know, in the past, I've had animals before I wound up with Shadow and now Marley. I took my dog for a shot on the, you know, what you have to have. God, and I can't think of the word. Now, what's it called? The shot you have to have. The rabies shot. Okay.
That one is required by law.
Yeah. So the rabies shot is required by law, and it lasts for 3 years. Okay.
Depends on when you get it in this state.
Okay. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But generally speaking, it's every 3 years.
Yes, if you're within the time frame.
Okay. That's all I did for my dogs of past. And that was in New York as well, pets. And it really is important that you take your dog once a year and get it checked.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Because
it's every
otherwise you
7
don't know what's happening with it. And I wonder how many people are out there that don't realize they really should. They take them every 3 years to get that shot because it's legal and you can't even license your dog without it. How
No,
important?
an annual exam is really important.
Yeah, and so can we talk about that?
Sure.
That's one of the subjects I don't think we've ever really talked about, how important it is to take your dog. You're not talking from an angle of, oh, well, it's a way to make money and, have them come in and have all these tests, but it really serves a good purpose. So can you expand on that?
Sure,
A lot
yeah.
better than I can.
So the annual exam is really important for dogs and for cats. Dogs and cats are really good at hiding their illnesses. They're a little bit different than we are, where I'll complain, as soon as my tooth hurts, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go to the dentist, or, I have a sore foot, I need some ibuprofen or something like that. Dogs and cats don't, they usually only will start to show signs when diseases are advanced. And that's just a defense mechanism they have. Some dogs are less stoic than others, but cats especially, it's really, they are very unlikely to show owners problems until the problem is debilitating. Usually, when the owners notice, when we notice that our pets stop eating, or they stop playing, or something like that, but the problem usually has been brewing for a while. Veterinarians we take extensive classes on the normals for cats and dogs, and we're trained on how to examine pets. It's a little bit, I tell my clients it's a lot like the pediatrician, when the kids are so little they can't talk to you. The pediatrician and the veterinarian at that age were very similar because we're like, Sherlock Holmes trying to figure out what the problem is based on what the owner's telling us and then based on what the animal is presenting as. So, the first thing that I like to do is observe the cat or the dog in the room with the owner, and just talk and see what the animal is doing normally. Is she, coming over to greet me? Does she not really want to get up? Is the floor too slippery for her? Is she interested in a treat or not really? Does she have a limp when she's walking around? Is there any kind of lameness or abnormality in the gait? And sometimes they're too nervous to really show us a lot of normal signs, but that can be really helpful. So I talk to the owner, and I'm watching the pet, and then the first thing that every veterinarian has are a system of the way that we go through the body, but we do it systematically. So I do eyes, ears, back, fur, and then I do abdomen. We have this way where we can feel the belly because they're four-legged, and we can't really, you can press on people's bellies, but we don't, and you can get some pain, but we can actually feel the organs unless the pet's very overweight, which makes it a little bit harder. But a lot of times we can feel the organs, and that's extremely helpful. We take the temperature, and then last I usually look in the mouth, because that's usually the most upsetting for pets, when you're cranking the mouth open, and it's very forward, I guess.
Oh.
So checking the teeth and the gums, and looking in the back of the mouth if the pet will let me. So and then listening to the heart and lungs. It depends. I do that depending on if the pet's really nervous. I do that first. But if the pet is comfortable, I'll do that more at the end. So all those things, and for cats and dogs, 1 year is like 5 years for us. So people are like, well, I don't go to the doctor every year, and I'm like, well, but do you go every 5 years? Because that's about like how long it is.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, well, I probably get there every 5 years. Okay, well, that's about a year for your pet. So and we look at subtle clues. So we see, I probably see 30 to 40 patients a day, and I've been doing that for 12 years. So I have like this index in my head of what I think is normal. So if things are not normal, then we can talk about those things. And for instance, if your cat has really bad breath, for instance, I'm like, whew, that is some bad breath. And I'm examining the mouth, and she has some gingivitis, but it's not too bad, not bad enough where I would think that her breath is really bad. Then I would be talking to you about what you feed her then if you're not feeding her like straight fish or something like that, then we need to run some blood work and look for some signs of kidney disease, diabetes, things like that. And if we catch those things early, not only are they treatable, we can actually prevent a lot of them from getting worse. So it's subtle signs like that that veterinarians were especially trained, and people are always coming. People are so cute because they're like, I can't believe I didn't notice that. And I'm like, why would you?
Yeah.
You know, like I went to school for years for this, and I've seen thousands of pets. Like that's the only way that I know. So it's not something that you learn outside of veterinary school, you know. Other people who can be really helpful to your pet, you know, who take a look at your pet often would be like the groomer. Groomers have seen also have a lot of normals and not normal dogs. So listening to your groomer, if she says, you know, his skin's really dry, or, you know, his ears keep getting infected or something like that, you know, that can be really helpful. Right now, what we started doing in my profession is we started doing blood pressures, which for a long time we didn't have the capability to do that because we can't listen with a stethoscope and put a cuff on pets. That technology does not work. So we had to wait for the automated blood pressure machines to come around. So now we have those, and it's a very cheap way to find out how the pet is doing. Blood pressure in animals should be 120/80, just like us. And changes in that are usually a very good indication that there's something wrong. So that's something that we would do routinely now for anybody over 7.
Well, well, you won't be doing it to Marley. She's only going to be 4.
Unless the pets are very overweight.
She's not overweight.
I haven't seen her in a while.
And
I'll be the judge of that.
Steve is laughing in the
No,
background.
but honestly, weight is
Yes,
the
especially
biggest
with a pup.
problem. Weight is the biggest problem that affects, well, the number one reason that pets are euthanized, put to sleep in this country is lack of homes. And that is hands down the number one reason. And a lot of times we like to ignore that fact. So homeless and pets dying in shelters is still the number one problem in this country. But the second main reason that people euthanize their pets are because they can't walk. They get arthritic, and obesity is a huge problem. Over half of our pets now are overweight. And that's something that you may not notice. You may be looking at your pet every day and you're not seeing it. And then, you know, if you don't come in for 2 or 3 years, at that point your pet's 20, 30% overweight, in that range for diabetes. You know, you don't want to be giving insulin shots. But if you bring them in annually, we can evaluate the body condition score and make diet recommendations early, so you just avoid all those problems. So, 2, I like to check body condition score, and I like to make caloric recommendations and say this is, you know, the absolute calorie intake for your dog, and that includes the chips and the ranch dip and the pasta, and like I take all that into account, you know. So let's see. I think that's it. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything? No, the annual exam is really important.
Yes,
you know,
you'll see her in November.
Yeah.
That's her time.
And for pets over 7, the recommendation now is twice a year.
Really?
Yeah. Because what happens if you go a whole year with an animal that's 13 or 14, you can actually miss those subtle signs, and things can get out of hand quickly, you know? So right now we're recommending everybody over 7 come in twice a year for that checkup. You know, it's a really cost-effective way to keep your pet healthy, because if I can catch things early, you know, then we don't have to worry about doing tons of testing, trying to figure out what's going on, lots of medications, things like that. So putting out fires is not the best way to take care of your pet. So, you know, being preventative.
Well, when I first got my pug, I was definitely not used to a pug and the stuff that she was doing. And so there were lots of calls to the Marionette. You know, she was running up there all the time.
They are so cute.
She's adorable, but you know, she's of course litter box trained, still litter box trained, and this is what she does. if she wants a little treat, she goes to the litter box. And because the litter box, dog litter, in case you don't know out there, looks like ziti's, but it's made out of paper. And so she grabs one of those, not the used ones. She knows enough to take the dry one. And then she walks in the living room and it's hanging out of her mouth like a cigarette, you know. And then I'll take it from her. And then she wants a treat. I know that's what she wants.
Yeah, well, she's trained you really well.
Yes, she has.
It doesn't take them long to train us.
Yes.
Veterinarians are sometimes harder to train.
But, if I know she's had too many treats for the day, it's not going to work.
Oh.
Because the litter box tray goes on top of her crate. So she can't get it anymore.
Bummer.
And so there is a way. So we kind of balance each other out.
Yeah, you figure it out. People figure it out.
Yeah. But, that's that thing. I mean, if I never have a camera in front of me at the time to take a picture of her.
Yeah.
With the...
One of the toughest recommendations I make to owners, I think, especially for some reason lately, is meal feeding your pets. A lot of people are used to just leaving the food down and the animals graze. And that's something that we have to change often, either because the pets are too heavy or because I need to know exactly what's going on with their nutrition. And if there's multiple animals, we don't know. We don't know how much they're eating. We don't know what they're eating.
Oh, okay.
So there's a couple reasons to do it. I also like people with outside cats to meal feed. No, do not leave that food out, because then you can, especially I would say recommending feeding at night only. That way you can do a head count. You see everybody come in at night. You make sure they come in. Because a lot of people are like, no, I make sure they come in at night, but they don't always come in, you know. And that way you can see how they're doing, you know, count those noses, and feed them and see what they're eating. I mean, what animals are eating is a huge indication of how they're feeling. And if you're free feeding, you have no idea.
Right,
You know?
and I used to do that with my cat many years ago. I left it for the day.
Yeah, and some cats actually do okay like that. But if there's any concern, meal feeding is definitely the way to go. We can measure those calories, and you also get a really good bead on, you know what, they haven't been finishing their food for about a week, you know? So you get a really good bead on those early signs of illness with meal feeding. And that's a really simple thing that anybody can do, is just to switch from free feeding to meal feeding. And it can be very helpful.
Okay.
Especially helps with the litter box.
Well,
And
there's another tip.
it's not easy. And I'm not saying, and people are like, oh my God, I go away on the weekends, and it's like, well, no, then obviously you're gonna leave the food out.
Right.
If you're going away, you don't have to do it all the time. Like I don't want you to be ball and chain to the cat food or the dog food.
Well,
you know.
Yeah.
But no, but if you can do that, that's helpful.
But I only had one cat at a time. Many years ago, I had two Siamese, but most of the time it was just one Siamese cat, and who liked bones, steak bones.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting, a Siamese cat, because when they pick up the steak bone, they can't really hold it in their mouth because it's so heavy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big bone. And I remember my brother many years ago, when I lived up in New Hampshire, came to sleep over in my house because he had a leaking roof in his that was right over his bed. And his answer for helping that leak he had in the roof, he put plastic up there. But guess what? The water filled and fell. So he
This
came
is your
to
brother?
That's right. And he came over to my house a little wet and said, you know, he'd like to sleep at my house. And I really didn't have, I had a very small apartment, and I put him put him on this cot, which was not very strong, and I was afraid. I says, don't move too much on the cot because it might break. And he was finally falling asleep when my cat decided it was time to eat the steak bone. So the poor guy is laying there and he hears clunk, and then the cat goes back clunk. You know, it was a very tough night for my brother.
So, that's a story that I would love to be told during an exam, because then I could make the recommendation to discontinue bones. No veterinarian is going to condone that your pet eat bones. Now, I have clients that do it and get away with it.
Yeah.
But once you've extracted a bone fragment from an animal's intestines,
Yeah.
you no longer recommend those as treats. It's a horrible surgery to do.
Well,
I won't go into details, but after you do that once.
But you just reminded me of the. I used to get fresh fish, that were caught out there in the water. Those kind of fish. Fishermen went out.
Fish
there
usually
and
live in the
got it.
water.
Yeah, and so I get this fresh fish, and I used to sit there and debone it for the cat.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I didn't want.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that has been I think we've been doing a real disservice to pet owners recently, because we've been allowing the pet food market to just make all these claims to pet owners about natural diets, raw diets. I think, the caveman diet is so popular for humans, like eating the raw food and vegetarian food and stuff like that. But there's a couple problems with that, but I won't get into that. But for our pets, I mean, they are so far from, like dogs are so far from wolves. I mean, their biology is different, their physiology is different, their behavior is different. Yes, absolutely. They've been domesticated for 10,000 years. Their intestinal tracts don't even have the same pH. Like, for instance, a wolf, the pH of their stomach can get down to 2, which is very, very acidic. So if they find something half dead, like, half rotten, they can eat carrion. They can eat things that dogs cannot eat. And if they have those situations, the pH of their stomach changes. Our dogs can't do that. Our dog's pH is just about like ours is, 4 to 6. They've been domesticated for so long, and they've been used to eating. They've been in an agricultural society with us. They have changed just as we have changed. Like, our intestines are so different from primates because we cook our food. Our intestines are so much shorter. The pH of our stomach is so much higher. So dogs suffer from, if you're feeding a raw food, you're actually doing your dog a disservice, because they can't digest it. If there's any bacteria in there, they can't digest it. They can get sick. And then the other thing too, that's the rage everywhere, is protein for these dogs and cats. And yeah, I mean, a jaguar is out hunting, and she's probably getting a 30% to 40% protein diet, and she's eating that meat. But she's only living, 12 years, 10 to 12 years, first of all. And second of all, she's making kittens every other year. She is making milk and kittens, So our cats, they are so different from wild cats. First of all, they're not doing all that breeding. The same thing with them, their intestinal tracts are different. So although they are carnivores and they need animal sources of protein, they actually do really, really well on carbohydrates. They've been living in our barns and eating cooked food and drinking milk. Like, what wild cat drinks milk?
Yes.
But our cats actually can, and they can do okay on it, which is a very strange. No other cats do that. So for us to try to compare their diets to wild animal diets, I mean, it's similar, but there's enough differences that it can be dangerous. So, and for some reason, veterinarians are just not comfortable discussing diet with owners. There's just so much propaganda from the pet food company. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So, like, I had a client who went into Petco and she got her dog an antler. That's like the new thing, is antlers. And it's not bone. You know, it's not labeled as bone, but it is. That's what it is. It's bone. And her dog got sick. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where
What I was doing for my shadow, as well as for Marley, getting the chicken strips, but they are made in China.
yeah.
And it started me thinking, because it never stopped me from shadow, because I just didn't know any better, and he loved them.
We didn't know any better then either. That was a few years ago.
But now, you know, when I see it's made in China, I say they don't have the same rules
No.
that we have in this country.
Nope.
So when it says made in China, I'm not interested. And it may cost more when it's made in the USA, but at least I can trust the USA
Yep.
is saying what is in there, you know. So she doesn't get those anymore, but she loves those pepperonis.
Yep. I mean, when
She
you're
just
looking at
loves
pet
them.
food bag, when you're trying to figure out what to feed your pet, and you're looking at the pet food bag, made in the USA is huge, and I just find that makes such a difference in the number of recalls that company has had. For instance, the Hills, the Science Diet products, that company's never had a recall. They do not buy food from China. They only buy stuff, you know, from the United States, and their factories are here and all that kind of stuff. So when you're looking at companies, and when you're looking at the food bag, there should be things on there like calories. There should be on there like an as-fed protein and then a total protein. There should be a breakdown of that for you. And if there's not, then that company is not giving you all the information that you need to best feed your pet. If they're just saying, this is the crude amount, you know, and then this is what we think you should feed your pet, without giving you a calorie count or an as-fed basis, it's like, I mean, that's just, it's. I don't know if you guys do look at labels a lot for your own food,
Yeah.
but I do.
Oh, I do.
And I do, and when I'm looking at the amount of things on there, it's really helpful when you're making food choices, especially if you have kids or something like that. So if you're buying a pet food that doesn't give you that breakdown, that's a really good indication that pet food may be questionable, or you may need to look more into it and try to get that information, which a lot of that's available online.
Yes, it is.
So I try to talk to owners about that now, about, you know, okay, well, you're feeding pro plan. Let's look at the calories, you know. No dog or cat should be getting more protein than breast milk. So like say, like, so the milk that a queen, which is a female cat or a female dog, is nursing is about 20%, 22% protein is milk. And honestly, no animal should get more protein than that. That should be the most protein that they ever get in their life, because that's a really concentrated food. So when you're looking at like, say, I hate to point fingers, but like Taste of the Wild, you know, it's 35% protein. That's way too much protein. That's way too much protein, unless you're feeding other things too. So say you're giving Taste of the Wild, but you're also doing a lot of homemade, you know, corn-based snacks, or you're doing like another food as well, and you're cutting that protein down. But 35% proteins is, I see a lot of dogs with acid reflux with that, vomiting, diarrhea, you know, it can lead to kidney problems, so.
That's, yeah, and you know, all these things are something when you do go in to, you bring your pet in for a year's
That's the stuff we talk about.
examine.
When you
can
come in,
talk about
yeah,
that.
when you come in for
Not only her, but any vet.
oh yeah, any
you know?
and especially like any, and the veterinary technicians are all trained in nutrition
Yes.
as well. You know, so you can definitely talk to anybody at a veterinary hospital about it. We used to say, go with something you've heard of, you know, go with a food that you know. But now we're saying, we need to be more specific than that. How many minutes? What does that
3.
mean?
That was
Oh.
3 fingers.
Sorry, I'm
That was
new
three-
at this.
You'll
So it's an
learn.
important discussion, and when you come in for the lameness or you come in for something emergency, it's very likely not to get covered, you know. And that's what, yeah, exactly. At the annual, that's when we talk about nutrition. That's when we talk about your flea and tick products. What are you using? What's best for your dog? Is it working? That's when we do the test for Lyme, or for cats, we can do a combo test and see what's going on with their blood. That's when we talk about preventative dental health, you know, nutrition, things like that. Behavioral stuff usually comes up at the annual too. We can talk about what behaviors are going on, you know, how much of your couch is left if the cat's, you know, going through your couch. Things like that that don't come up if the cat's sick.
There was a great picture of a dog that was sitting on his pillow, I think on Facebook the other day, and the sign around his neck said, "Mom, my pillow exploded for no reason." It was the cutest thing. But yes, and you have a contest going on with the pet costumes. Yeah.
I have nothing to do with that, but I think it's adorable. I think I'm going to enter my pets because I think the prizes are like, there's like
really
a year's
big?
supply of Frontline.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like a really good prize basket this year.
And who puts that on? Is it
I think, well, my practice manager, Chantel, she organizes it, but she gets donations from the reps. And I think the basket's really good this year.
Wow.
There's like a lot of stuff in there. I know, I thought the year's supply of Frontline was great.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
It's expensive.
That is, yeah.
So take a picture of your pet in their costume and email it to us, and you'll get entered in the costume contest. And you can
That's
see,
right.
you can go to the website for that. I think it's on the Facebook page. And then I believe Chantel's doing a couple different ways to vote this year. I think last year it was Facebook voting.
Okay. Well, I think that we have to say goodbye. It is now 9 o'clock, so have a good day. And you want to hear what she has to say, this show will be repeated tomorrow. So,
And I'll be back in a month, right?
and she will be back in a month.
Oh, we did find enough stuff to talk about. for
That's
half an hour.
right.
Apparently I'm verbose.